5 and holding. Alright, I'm gonna have to record since we got people that's don't y'all say nothing crazy like y'all normally do. We got folks that's quarantining. Huh? So this is your bell ringer. 5 questions. Remember, today is the last day. I don't know if they put a time on it. If y'all are doing any kind of schedule changes, if y'all gotta do your schedule change form, the last day is today. I don't know. Y'all should be able to.
Students and teachers, please excuse this interruption. This is an important announcement. This year's 2021 homecoming game will be Saturday, October the 2nd, 2021. And we are doing it Disney style. All your favorite movies from your younger years will be spotlighted by your attire during the week of September the 27th through game day on October the 2nd. Start planning your attire now. Visit the For Students section on the JD website for details. Now what you've been anxiously waiting for, the announcement of this year's homecoming court. The video announcement will be shown on both Instagram and Twitter this afternoon. Make sure you follow Jeff Davis _yearbook on Instagram and at JD Activities on Twitter for the announcement of this year's 2021 homecoming court. The announcement video will be aired at 1 p.m. today. Thank you.
Oh man, I thought he was gonna say something. I just have to look on Twitter because I don't think I followed him on Instagram. Alright. Like I said, schedule change forms are due today. Same place y'all voted for homecoming. It's the same spot y'all go for schedule change forms. I'll place y'all's study guide on Google Classroom. If you like a paper copy, if you're like a visual person like I am, I have paper copies up there. You can grab one, or you can do it on Google Classroom. It doesn't really matter. I'm going to upload some more notes onto the drive that I posted. I just haven't had an opportunity to. I'm gonna do that today. I can tell you know, being focused, you were knocking on that door. I know. So yeah, if you want a paper copy, they're there. I know some people like to actually write and see stuff, so I'm making copies of them. Your test will be on Tuesday. We probably gonna wrap up the notes today. So that y'all can have a test. Cause y'all get progress reports next Thursday. So I need to have a major grade for y'all in to school by then. I think they're going to be probably, this is my assumption, don't say I said it. But I think they're gonna give y'all login for Power School next week, I think. I got my kids cause we live in Auburn, but they do, the whole state uses Power School. So I got their login. They got progress report yesterday, so they sent them home. So I'm thinking y'all might get them next week with y'all. Y'all log in to Power School or whatever. I think y'all might. Because they sent us some, I don't know if they were supposed to, but it's a little sheet and it has like instructions on it. They emailed it, but I don't know who's printing it. Probably got it and put what y'all that's what I'm assuming next week. So y'all can be able to log in and see y'all stuff. What else I need to tell y'all? I think that's it. I put in hand washing. I think everybody in here did hand washing. I put in hand washing, and probably your study guide will just be your other minor grade, and then your test will be your major grade, because y'all have to have 2 minors and 1 major by like the end of next Wednesday. So, that'll probably just be y'all 2. I was gonna do glove check off, but I'm trying to get down the notes, so we might do that. Y'all got any questions?
For the study guide, it's over your Google Classroom.
Yeah, it is, but I know some people like to write or, like to see an actual piece of paper, so I make some, I'm like that. Like, I'll do it, but I need to have something to hold and, look at and highlight and highlight.
Okay, I want to mention, okay, I want the paper. And, okay, and can I log to my old account and give you us on there, since you already graded it?
It's not the same one.
So, but some of the questions look the same.
Some of them are the same, but it's not the exact same study guide.
So, can I give you other questions that are the same off there?
Why? When you got the notes. What's this like? She don't listen. I know that. I know that one. She don't listen. She just does her own thing all the time. Okay. Y'all cold.
Yes, sir. We walk back over there. Can you hand me the paper? Please.
Me too.
Y'all made the old lady do all the walking.
You not old.
I got longer legs than I do. You're welcome.
No.
You're so mean. Alright, so I think the last thing we did was hand washing, right? Y'all watched that little video. So I thought I could make my face smaller, but I don't really like that. But anyway.
You
So everybody signed in to everybody signed in to this, right? I think it looks like it.
No, not me. Cause remember my computer wasn't acting right that day. So I ain't get to sign in.
Okay. We can try again after lunch to see. They say it's like a system thing. That's why y'all not able to log in. Cause it's even not letting me log in on some of them. So we can I'll open it up after lunch and come back. Y'all are able to access all these things already, but we're still gonna go.
What you'll learn.
Over it. Why is it gonna get smaller? Okay. So we're gonna talk about standard precautions, and then we're gonna talk about contact, environmental cleanliness. All these things are like small.
The Center for Disease Control and Prevention, CDC.
All right, so right, definition right there that you got on the study guide.
Huh?
Where it said is right here on top and right down.
Yes. That's it. Alright, so the CDC or Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, they developed some standard precautions that should be used for all patients, regardless of their type of illness. So these are called standard precautions. So that is the minimum infection guidelines that apply to all patients here in any healthcare setting. So that is what the definition is. That is on your study guide. As a question. So things that are included with the standard precautions, you got hand hygiene, respiratory hygiene, you got PPE, you got shark safety. They're designed to prevent healthcare workers from spreading things to their patients and also from contracting things. So they're put in place to protect. So that would be number 5 on the guide. The definition of standard precautions. Alright, so these are the things that you must do at a minimum. You must always wash your hands or use hand sanitizer. You must always use personal protective equipment, especially gloves. Gloves is the minimum that you should use. You should do respiratory hygiene, cough etiquette, we talked about that. You should put sharps in the sharp container where they go. You should, when you draw blood, you should use your needle wisely and safely. Make sure that you sterilize instruments and any devices that you use, and then make sure you clean and disinfect any kind of surfaces and stuff like that. So, those are important things to remember as far as standard precautions.
Did you just say this one right here?
Huh? I ain't said nothing but the definition of that.
Is this the one,
Yeah. Yes. I just made copies in case people want it to have a copy.
According to the CDC, all blood,
Alright, so according to the CDC, all blood, body fluid, secretion, and excretion except sweat must be considered infectious. So that's the answer to the next one. So all these things, blood, body fluid, secretions, excretions, except for sweat, must be considered infectious. So that means healthcare workers must use PPE, like gloves, masks, gowns, shoe covers, when you come into contact with something that could be infectious. So that's why I always tell students, is always, anytime you're gonna do anything related to your patient, put gloves on. Now, sometimes I might, if like I'm going into a patient room, because sometimes like when I work in the ICU, they're, in the ICU, your patients are connected to monitors that you can see at their desk, at the nursing station. But sometimes they're not connected, or they might not have the probe on, or the probe is coming off, or something. And I might go in there and peek my head in just to see if I can see what's going on. I might not put gloves on then if I'm just looking. But if I'm going to touch them or get something for them, I'm gonna put my gloves on. But I would, even if I don't touch anything and I'm just looking, I still would sanitize my hands because I've been inside of a room. So hand hygiene must be performed frequently to avoid spreading infection. So just because you wear gloves or anything like that, you still need to make sure that you wash your hands or use alcohol-based rub or sanitizer. So things to remember, you should wash or use hand sanitizer before touching a patient, before performing an aseptic technique or handling any kind of invasive medical device, before moving from work on a sole body site to a clean body site on the same patient, after touching a patient or the immediate patient care environment, so that's surfaces, equipment, any kind of personal items, and linen inside the patient's room, after contact with blood, body fluids, or contaminated surfaces, and immediately after taking your gloves off. So you should just wash your hands and sanitize a lot.
healthcare workers must bandage their cuts.
Alright, so if you have any like open wounds, cuts, or scrapes, you need to make sure that they're bandaged, just because you don't want, anybody's blood, body fluids to get inside of your cut. Because remember, that is how the the chain of infection works. That virus or that causative agent is going to try to find a way to get inside of a new reservoir or to get inside of a reservoir. So that is one way, you can pass like infections from person to person. Standard precautions should only be used on patients with communicable diseases. False. You should just basically treat people like they have something, not as, in a negative way, but that means at minimum always wear your gloves. Every fluid except sweat must be considered infectious. True. That's true.
Used sharps should.
Alright, so sharps should be placed into puncture-proof biohazard waste containers. So I think that's a question. Where should needles be disposed of? That's number 7. So they should be placed into puncture-proof biohazard waste containers. So sharps are like needles, blades, razors, things like that. You should never bend a needle or break a needle, after, you use it, and you should never recap a needle. These are examples, small examples of sharps containers. These ones,
Why them real needles in there like they use?
they're not used with they're real.
Oh, let me see.
No. I wouldn't let you pay me to let you see these. No, ma'am. No, ma'am. But these are where you would place needles. You might see them, like she said, at the doctor's office. In the hospital, they have them a lot of times. They with the little gloves, like right here. You have a sharp container right here. You'll put your needles in there. Needles should never go in the trash can. That's just dangerous. Because somebody might be, picking it up and they might stick themselves. This thing right here, this little pink thing, this is like a safety. So when you're like, if you have a needle and you're sticking somebody, it's a little safety. So when you pull it out, when you pull the needle out of their arm or wherever you get blood from, you kind of just do it like this on like, I would usually do it on like the little table, and it'll flip up over there. That's a safety device. So it'll flip up over here. Because they don't want you to, like, if this is the needle cap and this is the needle, doing this, people will stick themselves. Because everybody not steady, and they trying to put the needle in there and they end up sticking themselves. So they made safety devices like this to go over it to keep you from sticking yourself. But if you stick yourself, there's a possibility that you can catch a disease from your patient. I have gotten stuck, I think twice, by basically a dirty needle when I was working, because people get really scared of needles, and you tell them not to move, and they move anyway. So, but one lady, she was just really, really big, like obese big, and her arm, she was, and her arm, like I had to take the side rail off, let it down to get her arm so I could get blood, and she just was big, and she moved, and I was sick of myself. I think she was intubated on the ventilator, so. But then I had to get checked out in the ER. I had to, and then anytime you have any kind of accident, you gotta be drug tested, because they want to make sure that you're not on something. That's the reason why you had an accident. And I could take antiviral drugs to prevent any kind of diseases if I wanted to. That was up to me. But she had been a patient there for a while, so I knew she didn't have anything like that. Her problem was like she was really, really big, so the problems that come associated with being obese, so that was her main problem. But it was a respiratory therapist, I think.
Miss Harris.
Yes.
I need Octavius Watkins for checkout.
Okay.
Okay.
The note's gonna be on. So she's a respiratory therapist. I think my cousin is a few years younger than me. She went to UIB too, and she's a respiratory therapist. I think it was when she went to clinical, they were telling me about a respiratory therapist that ended up contracting HIV from a patient from a dirty needle stick. So just got to be careful. So any safety mechanisms that they have, just try to make sure that you use them.
Spills must be cleaned up immediately.
All right. So if you have any spills, just make sure you clean them up. They have different like wipes and sprays and stuff for blood and different products. So you just use whatever that is.
Dirty linens must be.
Dirty linens should be placed in designated linen bags at the point of use. So the point of use will be like at the bedside, or the patient's room. So linens that are contaminated with blood or other infectious body fluids must be placed in a non-permeable biohazard linen bag. That's this right here, that red bag with that symbol on it. That means biohazard. So that means it has like some blood, some kind of body fluid, something like that on there. And then if it's just regular linen that's soiled, you'll put it in something like this. I have a linen carton here that's over there right in front of the skeletons. I just don't have a bag for it, but that's what that is. That's what it looks like. Like if you have to give a patient a bath or change their dress, I mean not their dress, and change their gown or something, then you'll just put it in the store linen. So.
All infectious waste.
So, anything that's infectious should be put in something like this. This is a biohazardous waste basket. It's just like a red trash can with this yellow orange sticker on it. I got a small one right here, but it has a biohazard sticker on the front of it. So that's like where you will put anything that has blood, like if you use gauze or like if you change a dressing or something. Um, just anything like that will go there. You still don't want to put needles in there. Although I've seen people put needles or I've seen needles in the hair, but they don't go there. They go in the sharps container. So people just do whatever they want to sometimes. What should a healthcare worker do with a used needle? Huh?
Place it in the right here.
Okay. Place it in a puncture-proof biohazardous waste container. What should a healthcare worker do with contaminated linen?
I think it's the first one.
So I got first one and I got what you say? What you saying?
I said the first one.
You said I feel like you said something else. Right.
In this lesson, you learned
My first year, they was arguing with each other about that. Alright.
what you'll learn.
Gowns.
Gowns are per.
So gowns are PPE. So PPE is personal protective equipment. So that's question on your test. What does PPE? I mean on your study guide. What does PPE stand for? Healthcare workers should wear gowns when using chemical solutions for disinfection or sterilization. Gowns should also be worn during procedures where splashing or spraying of blood and body fluids is likely, or if you're taking care of somebody that has an infectious disease. Blood does spray sometimes. People like the body does crazy things, so it's a possibility anything can happen. So just make sure you have on the correct PPE when you're performing procedures. Especially if you're gonna get, really close to your patient, just make sure you have things on to protect yourself. You should change gowns between patient visits. The same gown should never be worn for more than one patient. Disposable gowns should be placed in a biohazardous waste container after use. If it's non-disposable, it should be placed in the linen bag, the biohazardous linen bag. So if it's disposable, you can put it in the biohazard trash can basically. But if it's non-disposable, then it'll be placed in the linen bag. When should gowns be worn?
All of the above.
All of the above, right. Where should a disposable gown be placed after use?
In a waste container.
Huh?
I think the first one. It might be
The last one.
The last one, because it's disposable. If it was non-disposable, then you'll put it there.
Procedure for.
Alright, so this is what you'll do with how you put on a gown. So you're gonna wash your hands, you're gonna unfollow the gown. So I have a gown here. And this is what they look like. Sometimes they're like white, blue, yellow. So you put it on, it's kind of like you put it on backwards, and I got it upside down. Yeah. So you put it on like this. Your arms go through the front like that. It has ties. It has ties at the neck, and then it has ties around the waist here. So you'll tie the neck, then you'll tie the waist, and you can probably tie it and tie it in the front too. And so that's how you would put the gown on. And then if you have gloves on, the gloves go like on top of the bottom of the glove, go on top of the sleeve, just to make sure like you want all areas of your body that could be hit with something covered. All right, so that's how you put it on. When you are taking the gown off, the first thing you're gonna do is untie at the neck, and then you're gonna untie at the waist. You should only touch the ties because the ties are considered clean, but the gown is considered contaminated. Because if you got the gown on the outside, that is what's gonna be like, gonna come in contact with your patient probably, gonna come in contact with the bed rail or the bed covers that's contaminated. So that part, is gonna be contaminated. So number 9 is the next one. The gown is considered contaminated.
Is it contaminated?
So you're gonna use your dominant hand to reach inside the gown at the opposite shoulder. You're gonna pull down the gown by touching only the inside. Because remember, the gown, the inside is gonna be the clean side. The outside is the contaminated side. So once you pull it out, you're gonna roll it. It's like you're rolling it into a bundle like this, and then you'll throw it away.
I just feel contaminated. I'm sorry.
Alright, 2 seconds. Alright, hands should be clean before and after wearing the gown.
True.
That's true. So always wash your hands. When wearing PPE, the outside of the gown is considered contaminated.
Sir.
What you'll learn.
Alright, so now we're looking at mask and eyewear.
According to standard
Standard precautions, healthcare workers must wear a mask and eyewear for procedures that may produce splashes or sprays of blood or bodily fluid.
So right there, you see.
So that's the answer to number 10. They spell standard wrong. Mask and eyewear will protect our healthcare workers' eyes, mouth, nose, respiratory passages from exposure to pathogens.
What part to write?
Where it says healthcare workers in the first sentence after the comma. So for procedures that require other forms of personal protective equipment, masks and eyewear should be put on after gowns and before gloves. Why do you think you gotta put that on before you put on gloves? Your mask and your eyewear. What's with your hands?
You clapping?
Not me. I mean, I'm clapping, but you putting your gloves on last? Why? What's with your hands? Isn't that the most dirtiest part? Because you're always touching things.
Because you gonna dirty up your glove.
Well, you'll put if you don't put because if you put the gloves on before everything else, the gloves is what you're touching. Your hands with your gloves on them. So that remember, because hands are the number one way that germs are contaminated. I mean, everything's contaminated by germs is hands. So that's why you put those on last, because that is what you're gonna be touching everything with once you get them on. Masks should be worn once and then escorted into biohazardous waste containers. If the mask gets wet or is worn for more than 30 minutes, it must be discarded and replaced with a new mask. Eyewear is often reusable, however, it must be cleaned and disinfected before reuse. Like this right here is, I think that would be cleanable. They have some that's not, it's disposable that you just throw away. So like during a pandemic such as COVID-19, if you have a flu pandemic or any other widespread outbreaks of respiratory illness, supplies of masks could become depleted. During these circumstances, CDC guidelines outline specific steps for a combination of conserving supplies and safeguarding the healthcare workers. This may include guidance for extended use and limited reuse of masks. Alright, y'all can line up so y'all can get y'all ready for here.
According to standard.
Let me see what
Alright, why is it important for healthcare workers to wear masks and eyewear? I'm gonna sit down. Tired. It's what?
Is it C?
All the above.
It's all of them. So, standard precautions require it is protection from pathogens, then protection from blood and body fluids.
Procedure for masks.
Alright, so when you're wearing your mask, you're gonna wash your hands, you're gonna put the mask so that it covers your mouth and nose. You need to make sure that the bottom is secured beneath your chin. So if you put a mask on, you can pull it down so that it's up under your nose. You're gonna tie the top strings behind your head and then tie the bottom strings. If the mask has an elastic band instead of ties, you're gonna pull the elastic band behind your head or ear. So sometimes it might have a band instead of like you might not have to tie it. Most masks have a metal strip over the bridge of your nose, so you'll pinch the metal strip over your nose to secure the mask. Then you're gonna position the eyewear over your eyes and pull the elastic strap around the back of your head. Alright, so when you're removing the mask, you're gonna touch only the tie strings or the elastic bands. The strings and bands are considered clean. So that is number 11 on your study guide. The strings and bands are considered clean. However, the mask and eyewear may be contaminated.
So put clean and add the other little piece to it.
Just clean. I got no money I need to release from football. Ooh, let's see. Don't give me that. Alright. So then you're gonna place the items in the correct container. If it's disposable, it's gonna go in the biohazardous waste container. If it's reusable, you can clean it or disinfect it, and then you're gonna make sure that you wash your hands. Alright, the strings and elastic bands of mask and eyewear are considered what? Huh? Clean. Alright. Alright, now we're gonna talk about blood.
What you'll learn.
Non-sterile gloves are
We
essential.
should be on number 12. Alright, so non-sterile gloves are pieces of PPE. You know, that's personal protective equipment. But you need to know that even though you wear gloves, you still need to make sure that you wash or sanitize your hands. You do that first, then you put the gloves on. Healthcare workers should wear non-sterile gloves when performing patient care that may expose them to non-intact skin, mucous membranes, blood, or other potentially infectious body fluids. These gloves are also required when handling contaminated items, cleaning environmental surfaces, and when caring for any patient with a highly infectious disease. If other protective equipment is required, gloves should be put on last. So that is number 12. Gloves should always be changed between patient visits. The same pair of gloves should never be worn in more than one procedure. You never should wash or reuse gloves. If you do that, if you wash them, you can put holes in them, and they won't be as effective. Any and all forms of PPE, including gloves, should be removed before you leave the patient room. So they have like trash cans or biohazard waste containers like right by the doorway. So you would, take all your PPE off before you actually walk out the patient room. Because remember, you're gonna have all that stuff on in that room. That means all the germs and stuff is gonna be on that PPE. So you will take that off before you go to another patient's room. But now since everybody's wearing masks, they'll keep their masks on. All right, y'all got that? All right, if gloves are worn for a procedure, hand cleaning is not needed. True or false?
False.
False. How many times can a healthcare worker wear a pair of disposable gloves? Once. That's gross to be trying to reuse some gloves.
Procedure for non.
All right, so when you're putting on gloves, and I'll probably let y'all check off on this next week. You'll take all jewelry from hands and wrists, and then you're gonna wash your hands. You're gonna pull the gloves on and pull the cuff of each glove over the sleeve of your gown. So, like I told y'all when we were talking about the gowns, if you have a gown on, you want to pull the glove over the top of it so that no skin is visible. So, you'll put your gloves on.
Like a 3-year program, 4-year program?
Alright, so you'll pull the gloves on, of course, if you had on a gown. And the gowns are more like taped for right around the wrist. You'll pull it over the gown, so no skin is showing. Alright, so then you can do like this to make sure that everything is on and good. Well, that's where it says interlace your fingers to make sure. So to take the glove off, so you'll grab. So I'll probably do this one first. You grab the cuff right here of the glove, and you'll pull it down, and then you're gonna hold it in this hand, the glove hand. You're gonna take your other two fingers, you're gonna put them down, and then you're gonna pull it over the glove. Because remember, in the inside is considered clean. You don't want to touch the outside of it, and then you'll throw them away. But I'll let y'all do that next week. I gotta make sure I got the gloves for everybody to use.
After you finish this lesson.
Alright, so we're gonna talk about, which we already talked about communicable diseases, but we're gonna distinguish between standard precautions, which is what we talked about, and transmission-based. And we're gonna talk about the three types of transmission-based precautions.
A communicable disease.
Alright, we already talked about this in the other module.
Transmission of communication. Standard precautions are.
Alright, so So we talked about standard precautions. So that is what you practice with all patients, no matter what their status is. You treat everybody like they possibly have something. So that's standard precautions. But then you have another set of precautions that are used with patients with a confirmed or suspected communicable disease. These precautions are called transmission-based precautions. So that is number 13, transmission-based precautions. So when used with standard precautions, transmission-based help to prevent the spread of communicable diseases in a healthcare setting. Healthcare workers must follow strict guidelines for caring for a patient on transmission-based precautions. The three types of transmission-based precautions are contact, droplet, and airborne. So we talked about that too briefly the other day. All right, so you just need to understand, like what you have to add. So if you think about it, the lowest level will be contact, because you know contact comes from like touching, kissing, skin contact, stuff like that. So for contact precautions, you'll do your standard precautions. That's your respiratory hygiene. That's your putting your sharps in the sharps container. That's making sure you wear gloves. Um, Hand washing, all those things, standard precautions, plus you'll have on a gown. So you'll put on one of those gowns. Then for a droplet, it's standard precautions, plus a gown, plus a surgical mask. Because remember, droplets are those big particles that are suspended in air like COVID. So that's why you have to wear a mask. And then airborne, which is what this is up here, is your standard precautions, plus your gown, plus your respirator, plus eyewear. Because for airborne, you have to wear a specific type of mask, like an N95 mask. Those for people that have like tuberculosis. So you wear like an N95 mask with airborne. So you wear all these things. So this will be the lowest level of precaution, transmission based, and then the airborne will be the highest level of transmission based precaution. And we know with all of them, you'll use your standard precautions. So those things we talked about earlier.
Contact precautions are
Alright, so contact precautions are used to prevent the transmission of communicable diseases that are spread by direct or indirect contact. So that's the answer to number 14. They're spread by direct or indirect contact. So we talked about that the other day. And then you have a private isolation room is preferred for patients placed on contact precautions. So that's number 15. So that would be isolation. So the CDC recommends placing any patient who poses a risk for transmitting infection to others in a private isolation room. So whenever you have to go in a patient's room that is on contact precautions, you're gonna put on the proper PPE, so that's gloves, gown, and these things prevent transfer of infectious organisms to the healthcare workers' hands and clothing. So we know that you're trying to protect yourself from, transmitting or passing germs to other people, and especially your patients, other patients. Whenever you can, or whenever there is supplies, then people that are on any kind of transmission-based precaution, they will have signs on their door, and they will have disposable supplies in their room. So you might have a stethoscope that stays in there. You might have a disposable blood pressure cuff. You wouldn't want to, certain things you leave in there. They have these like really cheap stethoscopes that they'll keep. You don't hear that well on them, but they'll keep those in there. But I'll always just prefer my stethoscope because I'm real funny. I wouldn't want to put my ears in somebody else's stethoscope because everybody don't put their ears out. So, but those things will stay in the room, and then once the patient is discharged or once they come off of isolation, like they finish their treatment for whatever that disease is, then if it's a disease that can be cured, then they'll because sometimes they'll put people on isolation that it's suspected that they have something. Like they might think they got TB, but they gotta wait till the results come back, so they might go ahead and put them on precautions, airborne precautions, so that just in case they're not passing it to other people. So contact precautions. These are two like bacterial infections that can get really bad. You got MRSA, and then you got VRE, and then you got CBS.
Standard precaution. Contact precautions are
Contact precautions are required for diseases that can be spread in which way? From both. Yep, direct and indirect contact. MRSA and VRE are highly contagious diseases that require contact precautions. True or false?
True.
True.
patients put on droplet.
All right, so if somebody's on droplet precaution, they're put in a proper isolation room to prevent the spread of infection. Droplets are expelled when the infectious patient coughs, sneezes, or talks, and during some respiratory procedures. So when these droplets contact the mucosal surfaces, that is your eyes, your nose, or your mouth, of another person, transmission can occur. Therefore, you should never touch your face before washing or sanitizing your hands. When entering the room, healthcare workers must wear designated PPE. This includes gloves, a gown, surgical mask, which prevents infectious droplets from contacting the nose and mouth. Some types of droplet precautions also require a face shield or hour to protect the eyes. When caring for a patient on droplet precautions, it is important to be mindful of any contact with environmental surfaces. After being expelled by the patient, infectious droplets fall and settle on nearby surfaces. A gown is worn to prevent contamination of the healthcare worker's clothing by contact with these surfaces. So droplet conditions are pertussis, the flu, coronavirus, and some pneumonia. So for droplet, all right, so for number 16 on the study guide, it'll be a surgical mask. Because if it's droplet like COVID, and that's why it's important to make sure your nose and your mouth are covered because you can breathe in those droplet particles. Like when somebody coughs, they sneeze, even talking, singing, screaming, yelling, whatever, those droplets can come out, and then another person can breathe them in. So that's why it's important to make sure when you're wearing your mask, you wear it over your nose and your mouth. The practice of putting a patient with a communicable disease in a private room is called what? Isolation. All right, what type of face protection must a healthcare worker wear when entering a room with droplet precautions? Standard surgical mask, right?
Airborne particles are
All right, so when you have an airborne condition, you have to have them in a negative pressure room. So number 17 should be like true or false. And that should be true. I forgot to put the T in there. So airborne particles are really small and they have the infectious materials in it, and they remain suspended in the air for a long period of time. They also travel easily through air currents. Patients on airborne precautions are in a private isolation room with a specialized vent system to prevent the spread of these particles to other parts of the facility where other patients and healthcare workers will be exposed. So it is a negative pressure room. I have to show a picture of it. It works by removing air from patients' rooms through a specialized exhaust system which carries the air inside the facility instead of circulating it through the facility. You must always have the door closed, only when like somebody's coming in because you need it to work right. So before entering the patient's room, healthcare workers must put on appropriate PPE, so that's gloves, gown, a particularly filtering respirator like an N95 mask or a PR, which prevents the inhalation of infectious airborne particles. Conditions requiring airborne precautions are varicella, which is chickenpox, measles, and tuberculosis. We looked up this picture in first period today, I think. Show y'all what it looks like, a negative pressure room. So this is what it looks like. This is the negative pressure machine. So it's like a big old box, and it takes up a lot of space, and it has this tube that goes out into the outside, and it filters the air. So you gotta make sure that the door to the room stays closed unless somebody's coming in. That's the only time it should open up because you need it to work correctly. Isolation rooms with airborne precautions must have negative air pressure. True. Healthcare workers must wear respiratory protection when they enter an isolation room with airborne precautions. True. Why must a room with airborne precautions be kept at negative pressure with the door closed?
The first one.
Alright, to prevent airborne particles from being drawn into other rooms. Alright, let's see if y'all know y'all's different precautions. Alright, so where would you put a standard surgical mask? Droplet or airborne? Or contact?
Droplet.
Okay. Large droplets in the air.
Oh, where'd you put them?
Which one is it?
Oh, airborne.
Airborne large droplets?
You say in the air. But I don't know.
Droplet.
Okay, move it then.
I'm asking y'all. I know where it goes. Y'all know where it goes.
Okay, put it in droplet.
Okay. Negative pressure room.
Airborne.
Airborne. Lingering airborne particles.
Airborne.
Pneumonia and the flu.
Droplet?
I got contact, I got droplet. Who else got
I
contact?
don't know.
Somebody said contact, I got 2 contacts, okay? Pepper mask. You got surgical mask and droplets, so what is this one? If you know you gotta wear a mask, which one you think?
Contact.
A mask, a contact?
Droplet?
You got you a mask and droplet.
Airborne?
Airborne. MRSA and VRE. It's a infection, bacterial. Close contact. Touches.
Contact.
Gowns and gloves.
Contact.
TB and chickenpox. TB. Breathing.
Airborne.
Airborne. This is the one with the negative pressure TV. Disposable equipment.
Droplet. Contact then. I don't know, cause you hesitating and you making me doubt myself.
Number 2 y'all got wrong. So disposable.
That one. Pneumonia going droplet, and then disposable going contact.
Don't we put disposable contact? Oh, I thought we did. Alright, good. So you got contact. Remember, you touch it. You can, that's touching, kissing, close contact. All those in droplet. Droplet, you have the standard mask. Airborne, you have to have the fancy mask, like the N95. TB is a respiratory illness. That's the one with the negative pressure.
In this lesson, you learned that what you'll learn.
Thank you, though. That sounds good. All right. Y'all eat gizzards in my book? See, you look like you eat some gizzards. So far, you look like you eat some gizzards too. You eat gizzards. I told you. Y'all country folk, y'all eat gizzards. I'm from the country, but no. Anybody else in here eat gizzards? You eat gizzards? No. Sorry, I don't eat gizzards. You know I should eat gizzards. Shanti eat gizzards too.
Patients with high
Alright. Oh, we talked about gizzards.
the correct sequence for donning.
So this is the answer to number 18 and 19. So the correct sequence for donning, that's putting on PPE. You put your gown on, mask, your eyewear, and then gloves. So it's your gown, your mask, your eyewear, and then your gloves. And your gloves is last because that's on your hands. And then to remove PPE, you're gonna take off your gloves first. That's the most contaminated. Then you're gonna do your eyewear, your gown, and then your mask. Alright, so to put it on, you're gonna put your gown on, then your mask, then your eyes, and then your gloves. Then to take it off, you're gonna use your gloves first, your eyewear, gown, and then your mask. You should always perform hand hygiene before you put on PPE and after you remove it. Do not touch the outer surface of any PPE because remember the outer surface is what's going to be the contaminated part. And it could cause you to be infected. Oh, goodness. So after you take off your PPE that are used for people or patients that have transmission-based precautions, you should put it in a biohazard waste container. Like we said earlier, it should be close to in the inside of the patient's room. You take it off before you step out to the hallway. If not, it could spread infection. Where should transmission-based garments be removed?
In the door.
Inside the door of the isolation room. So before you walk out, take it out.
Procedure for donning
This is putting on your gown, then you putting on your mask, then you putting on your gloves. So, okay.
Procedure.
In this lesson, you will define.
Alright, so we're gonna talk about body mechanics and the proper technique for lifting and moving. We're gonna identify the proper technique for pushing and pulling. Alright, so careers in healthcare involve physical labor, which includes often movement of the musculoskeletal system, especially those of the back. Healthcare workers are often required to lift, carry, pull, or push objects and patients. To maintain safety, minimize injuries, and maximize muscle productivity, it's important for healthcare workers to know and understand how to use their muscles correctly. For this reason, healthcare workers should learn and practice the principles of body mechanics. Alright, so body mechanics is proper use of correct muscles to safely and efficiently complete a task while avoiding strain on any part of the body. So that is the answer number 20 is body mechanics. It uses proper body alignment, balance, and movement to increase muscle productivity. Muscles are often productive when they are used correctly. When used correctly, muscles provide many benefits. So you gotta make sure that you're doing it right, because if you do it wrong over time, you're gonna feel it later when you get older. Muscles are most often productive when they use correctly. When used correctly, muscles provide benefits like efficiencies are realized when lifting, carrying, pushing and pulling, thus saving energy and time and energy. Risk of injuries to self or others is minimized. Avoidance of musculoskeletal strain. Injuries resulting from improper muscle usage include muscle strains and sprains, fatigue, disc strain, disc bulge, and disc herniation. Injury to the back is the most common injury experienced by healthcare workers. So that is number 21, back injury. Back injury can be avoided by applying these simple principles of body mechanics: maintain a stable center of gravity, maintain a wide base of support. This will provide you with maximum stability while lifting. So I know some nurses that been doing it 30 plus years and they complain all the time of back pain because they're probably, when they're lifting, they're not using the proper body mechanics. Remember, body mechanics are things that you're supposed to do in order to prevent injury to yourself and others. So moving and positioning the body in ways that prevent injury to oneself and to others is called what? Body mechanics. Yep. Muscles are most efficient when they are used correctly. What is the most common type of injury experienced by healthcare workers? Back injury, right? Lifting and moving can apply to medium size and weight to large size and weight objects or patients. No matter the size, there are some simple rules you can follow to keep yourself and patients safe. Alright, so these are things that you should do in order to have proper body mechanics. You need to have a wide base of support, so you need to stand at least shoulder width apart. Because if your feet are too close, you can lose your balance. If you're lifting something, when lifting an object from the floor, bend at the hips and knees while keeping your back straight. You don't want to bend over at the waist because that's going to make your back hurt. Put strain on it. When lifting something, you're gonna focus the lifting action on the strongest muscles in your body. So your legs have the strongest muscles, they're much stronger than your back. So you're gonna use 2 hands to lift it, and you're gonna keep the weight of the object balanced on both sides of your body. So feet apart, you're gonna bend with your knees and hips, and then you're gonna use your legs to do so. You're gonna carry objects close to you, and you're gonna carry it with 2 hands. This will give you control of it and give you support. When lifting a heavy box, always bend at your hips and knees. Which muscles are the strongest in your body? Leg muscles, right? Okay, now heavy object, hold the object away from your body. Box, you need to hold it close to your body. Pushing and pulling will most likely be a regular task in healthcare. Just like lifting and moving, there are specific steps can be used to keep yourself and patient safe. Always assess the object or patient before beginning to push or pull to ensure you can move weight by yourself or need help. If you have something that is too heavy for you, you need to ask for help. Get somebody to help you.
Please excuse this announcement. We need Kamari Adams for checkout. Kamari Adams for checkout.
So that's the answer to number 22. Okay. Use the strength in your arms to push an object. Nope. What should you do when a person is too heavy for you to move along?
Ask for a coworker.
That's a coworker for help, right? The last one. Alright, so we want to talk about fire safety. So the best way to practice fire safety is to prevent it from happening. So you need to do things that's gonna prevent a fire from coming. Gonna get to. Alright, so this is the acronym for RACE, which is number 23. You're gonna rescue, you're gonna activate, alarm, contain, and extinguish or evacuate. So rescue means anyone who's not involved in extinguishing the fire must leave the scene. Alarm, you're gonna pull the alarm or assign someone to pull the alarm. Contain, keep the fire in an enclosed area by closing windows and doors. And then extinguish or evacuate. If the fire is small and in a confined area, extinguish the fire with the fire extinguisher. If the fire is large, move everyone, including yourself, out of danger. So you're going either or with the E. You're going either extinguish it or you're going to evacuate. So to confine a fire to an area, you will close doors and windows. And then RACE is the acronym for the steps if you should have a fire. So we have rescue, alarm, contain, and then evacuate and extinguish. Alright, so you need to make sure that you're calm. You don't have to evacuate your patients immediately. So if they're in the most danger, then you need to get them out first, and then you can assist the people that can walk. Then the people that are in wheelchairs and beds. Do not leave patients alone if possible. Never use elevators. Most times the elevator shut down, you're not able to use them in a fire. Do not open a window for ventilation. The oxygen will feed the fire. During evacuation, fill doors before opening them. If the door is hot, do not open it. If you see smoke or fire on your escape route, try a secondary route. If it is necessary to escape through smoke, lay low to the floor and crawl to your exit. If fire is blocking all of your exits, stay in a room with the door closed. Flag for help at a window. If a fire is blocking your escape path to the stairway, you should evacuate through the closest elevator. That's fine. You shouldn't get on the elevator. During a fire emergency, healthcare workers must remember to they should be calm, because if people get all crazy and frantic, that's when things start going wrong. So you gotta try to keep a level head, even though there might be a lot going on. I know we had I think it was a bomb threat probably about 3 years ago, and it was people in like people visiting. I don't think it was the State Department. It was somebody visiting, and so we was in this class, and we had to go out this door and go down the sidewalk, and it was this lady, this white lady in the hall. My kids came out, and she was like, "Run!" Like she started freaking them out, and I'm trying to stop them because they getting all excited. You know, they like, oh my God, and I'm like, chill out. I'm like, lady, you can't do that. She's like, run, y'all gotta get out of here. And they were getting all, and I was like, oh God. Like when you start panicking, that's when people start falling and tripping over themselves, and people start getting hurt. I was like, who was that lady telling them kids that you can hurry up and run the hallway? And I said, y'all listening to her too. And I finally got across the street, and I had got on off. I was like, don't listen to that lady. She was scared, but she didn't know what was going on. All right, so every healthcare facility, their written evacuation plan.
Please excuse this announcement. We need Kimari Adams for checkout. Kimari Adams for checkout.
Any place you work should have an evacuation plan. We have them on, they're usually by the doors in your classroom, so that tells you when we go for fires and tornadoes. And then I don't think we have it about if we have bomb threats, but we'll go across the street if it's a bomb threat.
Every healthcare facility should have a written evacuation plan.
Alright, so for your fire extinguishers, you got A, B, C, D, and ABC. Those are the 5 types of fire extinguishers. So you got 5 types, and then it's A, B, C, and then ABC. Alright, so answer number 24 is the acronym for pass is pull, aim, squeeze, and sweep. So you're gonna pull the pin, you're gonna aim at the base of the fire. So this is the pin. I don't know if y'all ever looked at a fire extinguisher, but this is the pin that you'll pull. And then this is the little hose. So you'll pull this pin, you'll aim it, you'll squeeze the handle, and then you'll sweep from side to side at the base, so it means the bottom of the fire. So that's how you would work your fire extinguisher. And then it has a manometer on it. This one is full, because they changed them out, but I had somebody one year that pulled this thing and it was white stuff on the phone. Alright, so I'm gonna put the rest of these notes on Google Classroom. Your study guide is already on there, but like I said, I have copies here if y'all want a paper copy. Either way is fine, doesn't really matter to me as long as you do it. You'll have your test on Tuesday. That'll be your basic grade. Remember, for the safety test, you gotta make 100, so if you don't get it the first time, you have to take it again, but y'all have all the questions and answers. So if you look over it like you did 30 minutes, you'll probably get it. But y'all seen it all before, so she'll be just like a refresher.